Hello everyone, my name is Abby, and today, as you can see here, I'm gonna read this book called Should Citizens Be Required to Vote? Okay, we're gonna read right now. Start. Different views on voting. The United States is a democracy. This means its citizens have a say in how their country is run. They vote to choose their leaders and to make their voices heard on important issues. Some countries believe voting is so important that their citizens are required to vote and are punished if they don't. This isn't the case in the United States, but some people believe it should be. Others, however, think people should be free to choose to vote or not to vote. These different points of view play an important part in how democracies work around the world. How does compulsory voting work? When voting is mandatory in a country, it's called a compulsory voting system. It works differently in different countries. Generally, it means that all people over a certain age are required to register or sign up to vote. These people are also required to vote in elections. In most cases, if people don't vote, they have to pay a small fine. If a person has a good reason for not being able to vote, such as being sick, they don't have to pay the fine. In some countries, people over a certain age also aren't punished if they don't vote. Active citizens around the world. People who support compulsory voting often point to the other countries around the world that have made voting mandatory. They believe these countries are examples of how compulsory voting can make people more active citizens. More than 20 countries around the world require their citizens to vote. The number of people who vote in those countries has generally stayed the same over the last 70 years. However, in countries that don't have compulsory voting, the amount of people who vote has dropped by as much as 10% over the same period of time. A loss of liberty. People who oppose having a compulsory voting system in the United States believe it might be good for other countries, but it goes against American values. They see the United States as a country that was founded on the idea that people should be free to act without a government telling them what to do. Compulsory voting is a way for the government to tell people they have to vote. Many Americans don't like when the government forces them to do something. They believe it goes against their rights and takes away important freedoms or liberties. Turning around low voter turnout. In the United States, people are free to choose not to vote. As time has gone on, more and more Americans have started making that choice. In the 2016 US presidential election, only about 55% of the Americans who could vote actually voted. Supporters of compulsory voting believe making voting mandatory would increase voter turnout. By bringing more people into the democratic process, it would also encourage people to become more informed about their government because they have to take a more active part in it. More voters, more problems. Compulsory voting systems require citizens to vote. However, they don't require citizens to vote in an informed way. Some citizens might choose to learn more about the candidates or people running for office if they have to vote for them, but many don't choose to do this. In countries where voting is mandatory, people fill out their ballots with the names of people who aren't actually running for office. Others turn in a blank ballot or don't fill out the whole ballot. This shows that compulsory voting might improve voter turnout, but it doesn't always make people more active and informed citizens. Making all voices heard. In a compulsory voting system, even if voters aren't always informed, they are still making their voices heard. Many people believe those voices can help a country better serve all its citizens. Certain groups of people are more likely to vote than others. For example, the United States has two main political parties, Democrats and Republicans. More Republicans than Democrats chose to vote in the 2016 presidential election. White Americans also had better voter turnout than people of other races. Compulsory voting would cause people from groups who vote in smaller numbers to become a bigger part of the democratic process. Not fixing the problem. If citizens were required to vote, it would help solve the problem of low voter turnout. However, it would do this by forcing people to vote rather than dealing with the reasons why they choose not to vote. People choose not to vote for many reasons. Some feel their vote doesn't matter, while others don't trust the government. In many cases, people choose not to vote as a way to show they don't like any of the people running for office. Forcing them to vote doesn't fix those problems. A choice or a duty. People have made many other arguments in favor of and against compulsory voting. Some believe it would let candidates spend more time talking about the issues and less time trying to get people to vote. Others believe it could never work because it would be too hard to enforce. Voting is often seen as one of the most important things a citizen can do in a democracy. Do you think it's alright people should be able to choose to exercise or a duty they should be forced to do? Should citizens be required to vote? There's a summary here. Because of the light, we cannot see it clear. If you answer yes, then it is because other countries around the world have compulsory voting. Second, compulsory voting forces people to become more active citizens and raises voter turnout rates. When all citizens have to vote, the voices of all citizens are heard, and the candidates can spend more time talking about issues and less time telling people to vote. But if your answer is no, then maybe it is because requiring people to vote takes away their freedom. Or more votes are cast, but they're not often informed votes. Forcing people to vote doesn't fix the problem that have led people to choose not to vote. And it costs money, and it can often be hard to enforce compulsory voting. This is the end of this book. Thank you for your watching, and that's all. Bye.